Oftentimes after a national tragedy hits, politicians are told that they shouldn't exploit that tragedy for political reasons, although it happens all the time. And the recent example is Donald Trump trying to push for his tax cuts by using Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma as examples of why these tax cuts are necessary. Now, keep in mind that there are a number of government agencies and programs who have spent a considerable amount of resources and time to help provide relief to victims of these storms, and that takes money. It takes taxpayer money, which is why it's a curious argument made by Trump that these tax cuts would actually help Americans when it comes to these types of tragedies. So in a recent tweet, he wrote, "With Irma and Harvey devastation, tax cuts and tax reform is needed more than ever before. Go Congress, go."
And he probably pushed a red button right after he tweeted that. Just go.
Go Congress, go.
So this is how it works?
Yeah.
I'm president.
Like people are really suffering in the aftermath of the storm and they need resources and they need the government to come to their aid. So let's cut taxes so we won't have the resources to help them out. Anyway, he also, just to give you some numbers on how disastrous this has been, let's go to graphic 8. The two storms caused a combined $150 to $200 billion in damages, and that's according to a preliminary estimate from Moody's Analytics this week. And also keep in mind that Trump didn't use this storm to push a political agenda once. He did so several times. Here's another example. Trump made the same case during a cabinet meeting at Camp David on Saturday, held just as Irma was bearing down on Florida. So look, he is somehow politicizing this storm to support his proposal to cut taxes on the wealthy. And look, in some cases, I think it makes sense to use a crisis or a tragedy to make a point, a political point. I think Democrats have a really good opportunity here to talk about the impact of climate change and how these storms will become more severe and will happen more often if we don't do something to cut carbon emissions. They're not doing that though. But Trump, on the other hand, is like, yeah, cutting taxes is actually gonna hurt relief efforts, so let me go ahead and exploit these storms to cut taxes.
Wouldn't it be great if the Democrats actually did fight for the stuff they believed in, or they claim to believe in? Wouldn't that be something, like if we did see something, a huge tragedy, and they go, this is why we need single-payer Medicare. We need it right now. This is why, because people, they don't do that though. Wouldn't it be great to see after a big, this Category 4 hurricane, the second one in 2 weeks to hit our country, they go, this is when we got to do something about climate. Wouldn't it be great to see them come out and do that? Hey, maybe when the economy crashed, maybe they would say, hey, now we got to break up the banks. Wouldn't it be great to see them actually believe in stuff and push for it in a time of crisis? That would be amazing. It's never happening because the Democrats are also beholden to their donors, which is why they can't ever stand up for anything.
Yeah, like look, I feel like usually when something terrible happens, common sense says, all right, so this terrible thing just happened. What can I do to mitigate it in the future? What can I do to solve this problem or prevent it from happening in the future? And for some reason, like if Democrats try to find solutions as soon as a tragedy strikes, they're immediately criticized as politicizing that tragedy, and then they tuck tail and they're like, yeah, you're right, I don't want to politicize it. And it's like, either you're incredibly weak and you're so afraid of criticism that you won't do anything, or you just never really believed in these political issues that you claim to support to begin with, right? And both of those are terrible, so.
Well, I think that's part of what's wrong with our society. When you have something like a natural disaster, and you kind of say, okay, we really need to address climate change now. You're not politicizing anything. You're talking about a worthy cause that is 100% necessary for the planet.
Absolutely.
That's what climate change is, a cause that is necessary for the survival of the planet. Trying to use a natural disaster as a reason for corporate tax breaks is a ridiculous claim that involves so much mental gymnastics it would take 12 Ayn Rand novels to justify it.
Right, so to your point, I I want to give you guys some stats because who knows, maybe you're thinking, oh, look at these libs. They're just generalizing and they're just, speculating. What are the facts? What are the details?
Look at their peer-reviewed science. Like they have a book or something.
So we'll get to the climate science in just a second, but I actually want to focus on what these tax cuts for the wealthy will actually do to these government agencies that provide relief to storm victims, okay? So first, here's what Trump proposes when it comes to taxes. Trump's tax vision would provide the 400 highest income taxpayers in the country with an average tax cut of $15 million per year because that's what they need. The total tax cut for this group alone is $6 billion. For the same cost, the government could provide 600,000 low-income families with housing vouchers that could help them afford decent, stable housing. But why would we want to do that? It's much nicer to build moats around our estates and have the poor living on the street and struggling with their children. Anyway, let's get to how this would impact, hurricane response. Now, Trump's budget proposal would lead to some funding cuts, right? So $876 million in cuts for FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency's disaster relief account, $200 million in cuts for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration programs, $2.6 billion in cuts for the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and $1.3 billion in cuts for the Coast Guard, which has done quite a bit of important work for the victims of Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. And so, how are tax cuts gonna help these people? Please share that information with us. And you're right, the mental gymnastics. People do it. Somehow, miraculously, the people who benefit from these programs the most, the people who need these programs the most, will somehow drink that conservative Kool-Aid and think, oh yeah, you know what? I'm struggling to put food on the table, but I want those tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the country so then I can be completely screwed over when a terrible storm hits, which has been exacerbated by climate change, and there's no resources to help me and my family out. That makes all the sense in the world. Continue voting for Trump, please.
Well, actually, I thought about it, and there actually is one way that this plan would make sense. If every single rich person in the world behaved like Harrison Ford, maybe these tax cuts would be okay, because then in that case, they would all use their tax breaks to buy helicopters and rescue a bunch of people devastated by the hurricane. But otherwise, it's bullshit.
And look, Jordan French, who's a longtime viewer of the show, made a point to me recently about how there are a lot of churches and religious organizations that provide aid, and that's awesome. But I don't want to live in a society where I rely solely on religious organizations, especially considering some of those religious organizations that have been in the news lately and how comfortable they are discriminating against certain groups of people. So if you're a gay individual and you need help, is a church going to help you if they're against, the gay lifestyle? Like, I don't want to get into a situation where we are completely reliant on people volunteering to help. We need to ensure that we have a system in place to provide security and safety for people once tragedy strikes.
This idea that people have in their head that, well, if government didn't do it, we just have charities do it. We had charities in this country since we started. There's a reason why we had to institute Medicare. Do you know why? Because when people would quit working, they would go into poverty and die without medicine because they couldn't afford their medicine. That's why we have Medicare. Before Medicare was instituted, there was 33% poverty rate among senior citizens. A decade later, it was 11%. You think churches could have done that? We had churches back then. We had synagogues, we had mosques, we had everything back then, but we still had 33% of senior citizens living in poverty. So this idea that people have that, well, why don't we just let the churches do it? Why don't we let private charity do it? They don't freaking do it. We have the richest country in the world the face of the earth has ever seen. We can take care of everybody a million times over, but as Jack Ma has said, the guy who runs the Amazon of Asia, it's not China that's screwing over our economy, it's us that screws over our economy because we don't know how to distribute our income. We have more wealth in America than we had 10 years ago, than we had 5 years ago, and people are poorer. Why? Because we have a failed system. What do you call a system that takes the richest country the face of the earth has ever seen and renders half of its people poor or low income? That's a failed system. So this idea that somehow the church is gonna fix that system is fucking bullshit that you've swallowed. Turn off your AM radio.
Politico recently wrote about this, and they named specific Democrats who were like, we can't make this issue political. Senator Tom Carper, who is apparently very afraid of this, said the silence was part of the party's overall strategy, which Politico characterized as keeping the climate politics to a minimum after the hurricanes. Also keep in mind that EPA administrator, unsurprisingly, is pushing the ridiculous idea that somehow for anyone, including scientists, to talk about the cause and effect of these storms during Irma is very, very insensitive to the people of Florida. And apparently some Democrats have signed on to that. They appear to be heeding the warnings of climate science denier Pruitt. Politico quotes climate hawk Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, saying there's no urgency to make the climate hurricane link. We have a lot of time to make that point. Yeah, you've had a lot of time to make that point.
Unbelievable.
Okay, and look, he's a climate hawk. Make the point. Make the point incessantly. Get something done.
TYT membership gets you commercial-free Young Turks. Download it, stream it, podcast it, get all the network shows, and support independent media. TYTnetwork.com/join.